Good morning, and thank you for finding the counting well. And now the Electoral Commission has been carrying out its tallying process. It's almost coming to an end, and in the next few hours, we shall know our next president. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. It is the 15th of August, 2022. I'll take us through quickly the headlines this morning, and then I'll bring in my panelists, and then we shall look at some of these developing stories. We start with the Star newspaper. The main headline, Ruto Raila, peace call as results expected. The contest is too close to call. The swinging pendulum can settle on either of the two. And that is the main headline. And Kimilili, Member of Parliament, elect Baraza to appear in court over murder claim. That story is on page 3. Anxiety as wait for presidential election outcome continues. That is on page 4 and 5. And just down there, MP-elect Jihanda defeats local Sinyari Bari Chache. That is on page 3. The Standard newspaper, the main headline, calls for peace as Tallying nears, and Raila and Ruto stepped out and joined faithful in church, preaching peace and unity after a grueling election period. Across town, Maure threw in the towel even as Kenyans waited keenly on IEBC to announce the results. The story is on page 6. Unease, mystery of missing IEBC official deepens. That story is on page 8. They left plum positions to contest but lost. That story is on page 7. And plight of Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia. That is on the world page. On page 28 and on the sports page on the Standard this morning, trouble in Manchester after shock loss. That story is on page 40. And pump prices unchanged as state ups subsidy. That is on page 25 on the Standard newspaper. The Daily Nation, the main headline, how they stack up. The numbers with 12 independent members of parliament, 4 polls postponed and 12 yet to be nominated by parties. Azimio leads in the National Assembly by 3 positions, while Kenya Kwanza leads in the Senate by 1. The 2 coalitions are neck to neck in the governor's list at 21 each, with 2 independents and 1 yet to be declared. That story is on page 2. And 3 school heads want meeting with Magoha over shifting calendar. The story is on the back page. Where is Musyoka? Family of missing Embakasi East IEBC official cries out. That story is on page 8. Ruto Raila preach calm as Tallying drags on. That is on page 4 and 5. So that is what we have on the front pages of the leading newspapers this morning. I'm joined by Kiptanui Savania all the way from Nakuru County. Kiptanui, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to our viewers. Good evening to our viewers, depending on where you are watching us from. I'm actually joining you live from Nakuru CBD. Thank you for having me on this show this morning.
All right, very well, nice to have you. And we're also joined by Gladwell Kiragu. Gladwell, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to Miriam. A very good morning to my fellow panelists. Good morning to our viewers coming live from Kiambu County.
All right, very well. Gladwell from Kiambu County. And Samuel Sawish, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning indeed to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to my fellow correspondents, Gladwell Kiragu, and of course, Kiptanui Savania, and all our viewers watching this program in Kenya and the rest of the world.
All right, so before we get even into the headlines this morning, I'd like to just have a status update, and I'll start with you, Kiptanui Savania. If you can just paint for us the feeling in Nakuru this morning, even as the long-awaited results announcement is slowly coming to an end. I think by later on today or the next few hours, we should know who will be the next president of the Republic of Kenya, if at all the person would have garnered 50+1 of the votes, or if we will have to go for a runoff, but we will know after that announcement. But in the meantime, what is the situation and how is the feeling on the ground there in Nakuru?
Thank you, Miriam. The place is actually calm. People are actually busy with their businesses. I'm actually in CBD and I've transversed a lot of streets around. People are busy with their businesses. Though some other people have not opened their businesses, but it is calm. The only excitement is that people are actually waiting for this announcement. There is nothing, there is no reported case for violence, there is no reported case for any incitement. But people now, it seems people have accepted. People are saying, if your person becomes the 50th president, now let me join you in celebration. If my person becomes 50th president, let me join you in celebration. There is nothing much freedom around here. This place is calm. I've also made some phone calls to Mashinani, and everywhere is calm. We thank God for this.
Very well, thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that. Gladwell Kirago this morning in Kiambu. How is the feeling there?
Thank you, Miriam. Actually, wherever I am, let me say I'm actually in the middle between the Nairobi and Kiambu, so I can actually tell you the atmosphere of the two. And Miriam, I won't lie, it's kind of tensed. The people are tensing. They don't know what to expect. The outcome. Everybody is actually, the anxiety is there. And when I actually is passing by, we know by the people whether they have gone back to the businesses. For example, the Githurai market. People today didn't turn up to open up their businesses. The market is actually a little bit abandoned comparing to the normal days before the election. So Miriam, the anxiety is there, the tension is there. People are still waiting for the results, and I'm happy they chose to wait for the results actually indoors, so that even when the results are announced, the tension actually they won't bring it inside, but the jubilation will actually be indoors, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. And just to note, in the morning coming to work, I saw a bit of traffic. That hasn't been the case since Monday last week. And so I think Kenyans are back. For those who took a short break to go vote wherever they were going to vote, I think a lot of people are back in the city, and Kenyans they've gone back to their offices, they've gone back to the businesses, as much as the others who perhaps today, because of the uncertainty, they chose to stay indoors. But also coming to work this morning, I noted the traffic was back to some good amount, and so people are back in the city, but of course with some cautious optimism, if I might just put that in there. Samuel Tawish, the status update of where you are this morning.
Miriam, there's not so much that is happening as we speak now, away from Kenyans, of course, just waiting with bated breath, really, to want to get to understand what is going to be the outcome of this particular presidential election to be in particular. And Kenyans from the political divide really are expectant, or rather pregnant with expectation. And each of the camps really, especially when it comes to the front runners, that is the supporters of Raila Amolo Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, are really hoping that their candidate is going to emerge the winner of this particular presidential election. Of course, it's a matter of wait and see, but the anxiety has been there, and it continues to be there, and it's really manifested even in terms of the calls and the kind of messages and the people I'm interacting with. There's a feeling that probably some of us who are in members of the fourth estate have the privilege of having known exactly in terms of the figures, because the ordinary people have been watching on television, they have been listening to radios, they've been seeing publications on newspaper, and there's a general feeling that probably the media have a hint of who has won this particular election. And so it's just a matter of giving an assurance that the whole assignment, the whole responsibility and obligation as to who has won this election really lies on the IEBC, and in particular, the chair of the IEBC, that is Wafula Chebukati, who is the returning officer for the presidential election. So that anxiety is still there. People do not know exactly how is it going to pan out. I mean, there's a lot of goosebumps. People are like, is it my candidate? Is it the other candidate who is going to win this particular election? And in case of it, what is going to be the reception from many parts of the country? And of course, that is the kind of feeling that every other Kenyan really has. The ones I've interacted with, the ones who are making calls, of course, through making calls to me. Those are the kind of feelings I get from those Kenyans. But the most important thing, Miriam, is that the patience and the kind of the patience is and the wait is finally coming to an end, or rather it's almost coming to an end, because Kenyans have been asking from when we had this election on Tuesday last week up to today, Monday. It's taken so much time, and they have been expecting that probably these results will just come so that we get to know who has been elected as president, so that the people of Kenya can now embark on their normal businesses. Some of them really are worried. Our kids going to go back to school? What is going to be going to be an aftermath of the declaration of the presidential results? Are we going to continue maintaining the peace and calmness that we enjoy today, or are we going to have a disruption of activities, including even the learning calendar? And those are some of the worries that the ordinary Kenyans really have, and most of the parents who are probably wondering whether their kids are going to go back to school and whether the safety of those kids is really going to be guaranteed, depending on how these results of this election is going to impact. But generally, the passionate calls that are being made from left, right, and center from the presidential candidates themselves. You saw even yesterday while they were attending churches, and you've also seen from the observer groups in this election, you've seen various stakeholders really coming out and assuring Kenyans that all will be well. They should really prepare for any eventuality, for any results, regardless whether you supported that candidate or not. By the end of the day, it will be a candidate that has been elected by a majority of Kenyans, and that is the leader we are going to have as a country. So basically, it's just a passionate appeal for Kenyans to continue maintaining that peace, even if the outcome of this election is not going to be in anyone's favor. I submit, Miriam.
Yes, indeed, and Tawisha, I agree with you. I've also been receiving a lot of calls and texts, and people assume because you're in the media, you're supposed to know everything, and you're supposed to be inside, the Tallying, where Chebukati is yet to announce the final results, and so they assume you should know before Chebukati announces. We have to wait for the whole process. I think Kenyans have exercised a good amount of patience. I understand the patience is, of course, running out because of the amount of time that we've had to wait, to get the final results and to know who will be our next president. But it's just a few hours remaining, so Kenyans have been, I've received a lot of text messages and calls, and they just want to know what is going on, what is happening, who is winning, and things like that. But I think by the end of today, hopefully, we will have known who will be the next president of the Republic of Kenya, the fifth president. So whichever the fifth is, hopefully the country will continue staying calm and keeping the peace that we have been enjoying. All right, so while attending different church services in Nairobi yesterday morning, both the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza leaders called for peace and patience among their supporters as the tallying of presidential votes dragged on towards the 7th-day deadline, which expires tomorrow. Also joining the peace chorus was the church and various political leaders. That story is on page 4 and 5 on the Daily Nation. Let me just bring us that. Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition presidential candidate Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto yesterday called on Kenyans to maintain peace as the electoral agency rushes to beat tomorrow's deadline to declare the results of the Tuesday's general election. Both speaking for the first time since over 14 million Kenyans went to the polls, Mr. Odinga and Dr. Ruto urged Kenyans to be peaceful and celebrated them for being calm as the tallying by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission enters its home stretch. We have gone through election campaigns, and we want to thank the Lord that the campaigns have been peaceful and elections have been peaceful so far, and we want to hope that peace will prevail even after elections are over, because we are part and parcel of one nation and we want Kenya to grow stronger going forward, Mr. Odinga said during a church service at St. Francis ACK Church in Karen. And of course, the DP, on the other hand, held a church service at his current official residence and thanked Kenyans for maintaining peaceful campaigns and calm as they wait for the outcome. And this is what he said: we had a peaceful election moment. We voted peacefully. We have gone through this process peacefully. And it is my prayer that we end this process peacefully, because the Bible says the end of a matter is better than its beginning. That is what Dr. Ruto said. And I think by both these two leaders coming out yesterday and preaching this message of peace, I don't know, how timely do you see this to be, and do you think it had any impact as far as calming their supporters down Kiptanui Savannah?
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so much. We've seen most of the time when we are approaching towards the general elections, or most of the time when we are having elections like whatever is happening now, the country has been polarized. And we want to congratulate the candidates, Raila Odinga and his counterpart, William Ruto, for calling for peace. You know, Miriam, there are many people have lost lives while waiting for these general elections. And after the announcement, there are a lot of disputes. You see, last 2007, there was a lot of problems. 2017, we lost a lot of people along the streets in Nairobi and other parts of the country. So it is a wake-up call. I congratulate these leaders. Many of these are the two contestants. They have been in politics for such a period of time. They have been actually in politics for a period of time that we cannot assume that they cannot, their statements tomorrow calling for peace or did not impact anybody, Miriam. That is why, Miriam, you can see a lot of calmness around these towns. People are no longer having those grudges that my candidates the votes of my candidate has been stolen to maybe and other things, Miriam. The only people who are spreading this hate, Miriam, are our brothers and sisters who are in social media and most of this WhatsApp group. It is good that, Miriam, yesterday, in first time in history, I've never seen anybody who is contesting for presidency going to church and calling for peace. We want to give them credit for what they did yesterday, Miriam. Miriam, and I want to still call them upon them. By now, Miriam, maybe they might even have known whether I have lost or I have won. Because after some few hours, we know the person who has won and the person who has actually lost this election. And there is somebody who said today in the morning, Miriam, if your candidate wins, will be my 50th president. If my candidate wins, he will be your 50th president. As we move on as brothers and sisters, this country, Miriam, has suffered a lot. We suffered a lot. As my brother Karaoke narrated to you on Friday, that people, Miriam, suffered 2007, 2008, and they still have those scars. Some of them, Miriam, have not been compensated. Some of them have not gone back to their farms. So it's a wake-up call that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Kiptanui. And those are live images. The live images from the Bomas of Kenya. That is the National Tallying Center. And as you can see from the inside, the main dais has been cleared in readiness for the announcement that Kenyans have been waiting. And of course, a few constituencies results are yet to be declared. I think perhaps Chebukati will do that. And then maybe he'll be able to tell us who Kenyans voted for as the next president. But yes, the main dais there at the KICC has been cleared. And so the country still awaits that announcement by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Chairperson, Wafula Chebukati. So yesterday, as Kiptanui there you've mentioned, it is the first time we saw that even as we sit and wait for the results, the leading presidential candidates will even bother to go to church and worship, and they all appear to be very calm and jovial. I'm not sure. But of course, by their supporters are seeing them yesterday, and that message of peace and calmness, urging the supporters to maintain that. Gladwell Kiragu, do you think perhaps it worked in just calming the nerves of Kenyans who right now have been really very anxious?
Miriam, let me start by first congratulating Kenyans because we've behaved in a way that we have never behaved for the past, elections. We have never been this calm. And again, I'm liking a mentality with the Kenyans unlike before. Currently, as we're also waiting for the results, I'm happy with the way people are saying whomever becomes the president, we accept and we move on peacefully. This is also a slogan that we have never heard from Kenyans. With the previous election, we could be on the streets waiting. And actually, with the previous elections, there could be chaos and maybe some little bit of tension. But with these ones, people are actually craving for the peace of our country. So, and also with the leaders yesterday going to church, I also commend them. But again, Miriam, the message of peace should have started been spreading the day we voted, because that is when we started the duty, our duty as a Kenyan. Now we're practicing our democracy of voting. So, yes, they did well to tell the Kenyans, and yes, they relaxed the Kenyans because they also looked relaxed yesterday. and they attended the service. So it was also a good message to the Kenyans that if us ourselves will also come, you also Kenyans, you also need to be calm despite whomever you are supporting. And I've said I wish even today when the results get released, the message we have been having as Kenyans that whomever takes the lead, actually they will accept. I hope we live by the word till to the end, because at the end of it, we still need our peaceful country. We still need our students to go back to school. Miriam, there's so many things which are at stake and are still standing. So Miriam was also waiting for the results. And again, Miriam, I also want to commend Commissioner Nyoto. She has also been preaching the message of peace. They have even released a song on peace. So the message of peace started a while back. And I'm glad that Kenyans have lived to it. So far, we have not had an incident whereby people are fighting because I'm supporting who and who. No, and that is what we should be doing even with the next coming elections. And continuing, this is what we should be doing even when the results are getting announced.
Okay. Thank you so much. And of course, just outside of these two leaders coming out yesterday and preaching peace and calmness to Kenyans, both sides, I think their bloggers have been really working overtime. And on each side, the bloggers have been feeding Kenyans with a lot of hope in doses. That's what Kenyans are saying. You fed us enough of this hope. Now, can you just tell us? And so that is what we've been seeing happening. But the importance of these two leaders, even yesterday appearing in public and in the manner in which they appeared, Samuel Tawish, has it helped in continuing with the calmness in the country?
To some extent, Miriam, because that was strategic and it was, I think, timely that these leaders did come out yesterday and, of course, had that moment. This country is at a time when we need, of course, that dedication to God. We're at a time when, of course, the two leading factions, really each of them, of course, claiming victory at some point. When you try to, if the tweets and the kind of social media is anything to go by, you can quite understand how we are divided in terms of the anticipation that the people of Kenya have in this particular election. We are not yet sure really who is going to take it home between Raila Amolo Odinga and of course, Deputy President William Ruto. And so when these two leading camps really come out and one attended the church service like they did yesterday and made assurance to the people of Kenya that indeed, regardless of the outcome, we need to maintain peace. We need to be watchful of our brothers and sisters and make sure that we don't cause anything that will otherwise disrupt the peace that we are enjoying as a country. So I think to a large extent, it was very strategic, it was very timely, and it was good that these leaders came out not only to attend the church service, but more importantly, really to address the congregants. You could see that they had very little time addressing even the congregants yesterday. They didn't take so much of time. No any other politicians was quite allowed to speak in that particular event. Only the presidential candidates who spoke in the churches. I followed very keenly where Raila Odinga was attending the ACK church in Karen, where Deputy President William Ruto was having that service at his home in Karen, and you could clearly see that there was not so much of drama. It was just an appreciation of where how we've been able to have this election peacefully so far. And even as we await for the results to be declared, we should continually maintain that peace because it's very, very paramount. By the end of the day, Miriam, we have had the election, we have had the campaigns. The IEBC has done its tally. By the end of the day, we cannot have two presidents, we cannot have three presidents. We are going to have one leader declared as a winner, and that is going to be the president of the Republic of Kenya, regardless whether you supported that presidential candidate or not. He is going to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. So we need to be vigilant and not cause anything that will otherwise disrupt the kind of peace that we are enjoying as a country today, because maybe your favorite candidate did not win in this particular election. That is very, very important. That is what every other Kenyan must be preaching wherever they are. You cannot stop people from having this anxiety, Miriam. I was listening to some commentators yesterday saying Kenyans should stop being anxious. There's no way you can stop being anxious, only that maybe an appeal will be, let us make sure that whatever kind of whatever kind of expectation we have, whatever kind of anxiety we have, it should not really go beyond the limit to the extent that we are going to break of course, the normalcy. We are going to cause maybe havoc simply because a person that I favored for this seat did not quite win. So I think that is the clarion call that each and every Kenyan really should be preaching out there wherever they are, so that by the end of the day, we have a peaceful country because we have nowhere else to call home apart from this very Kenya. So any person who is going to win this election, regardless, let's accept the results and continue building our country together. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, there is one sector that has been affected by these elections and now the long wait and the uncertainty that has come with that, and that is the education sector. And right now, there's been calls for a meeting over calendar. School heads urge Magoha. That story is on the back page on the Daily Nation. Let's just look at that for a moment. Remember, the children are supposed to go back to school today after the the midterm, but because of the lateness with the tallying and all that, the Ministry of Education saw it fit to push the opening date a bit farther to the 18th. And so, all right, so secondary school head teachers have called on Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha to convene an urgent meeting to salvage the academic calendar that has been squeezed by the August 9th general election. The Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association Chairman Kahi Indimuli yesterday said they need to find a way forward for the education sector that has been disrupted by political events. He said any further postponement of the reopening of the schools could deal a blow to preparations for national examinations in December, as well as transition from the 844 system to the competency-based curriculum. He warned that the delays had impacted on candidates and grade 6 learners who are set to join junior secondary as the first cahoot of the CBC. Students have started preparations for the examinations, which is the most important period for the candidates. If we delay further, the CS may need to call a meeting to discuss the way forward. We all see if we'll be able to sit exams in December. That is what Indimuli is saying. But I don't know, what did Makoha have to do? Because it wasn't safe. I don't think there was any parent who was going to send their kids back to school today. And so what did the Minister of Education, what choices was Magoha, did Magoha have in this regard? And Captain Savania, is there a different way the Minister of Education would have handled this matter?
Miriam, the education system of these countries is down, has been disrupted so much. And most of the parents, Miriam, were actually crying out loudly. But whom are we going to blame? It is nature, it is election, this is the year that we are actually partaking elections in this country, Miriam. And Magoha could not have sent these children to school while there is a lot of tension. You know, Miriam, since 2007 and some subsequent years where we've experienced violence, Miriam, people have not recovered. You know, Miriam, during 2007 and 2008, when post-election violence occurred, Miriam, some of the children from Central Province who are actually schooling in Rift Valley, they chose even to go to day schools. I have so many who are actually studying in Kapsabet Boys, Miriam. They chose to go to day schools. They shifted and there were a lot of movements. So I think parents are also impatient and sometimes are not actually, Miriam, honest. Because you see, nobody knew that these elections will be as peaceful up to date, up to now, where we are. So, Miriam, on my personal opinion, let us give the Ministry of Education time to actually cope up with this scenario. Let us give them time. Many people have blamed Mr. Makoha, and I don't know whether I will join them to blame Makoha, but I will not join them to blame Makoha, Miriam. This is the year we are actually partaking. Our country is on election. I have confidence that Ministry of Education will actually give us a pathway so that our children will catch up with this system, Miriam. Mm-hmm. Miriam, what it worries me is not even that our children are led so that they actually go back to school and sit for their KCSE, KCB. Miriam, you've seen, and there is 100% transition from primary level to secondary school. Miriam, if you ukijikaza sana, you get a C, and you are assured that you are going to defend. You get a D, you are going to college. There, it is not like your time when you are sitting for our Tarwish or me or other people whom we sat for KCSE or KCB at the time when this country had a pass mark. that if you cannot get 65, you will not enter 20 university. If you cannot get 3 and something, you cannot go. Miriam, education in this country has changed. People are going to university. You get somebody getting A. I was in Egerton and I interacted with one of my friends, and he told me he's actually teaching there. He told me most of the students who last year they were actually they got admission for medicine, but after some time they have already changed to education. Miriam, education of this country has been diluted in a manner that everybody qualifies to do whatever he wants. So let us give the Ministry of Education time to rectify this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Gladwell Kirago. I don't know, how do you rate how much Magoha has been able to do as far as steering the education ministry, especially during this period? We know we are just trying to catch up because there was a disruption of education calendar by COVID-19. So we're just trying to catch up and compensate for the lost times. So it has been very hard on the students and on parents as well. And this long midterm, perhaps, I don't know if I can say it was not foreseen, but we knew they were not going to stay in the house for like the couple of days that they had been given because of the nature of our elections. But we thank God the country has been peaceful. But I don't know. The heads are saying before Magoha makes these announcements of postponing, the schools reopening again, he should consult with them. And they're also worried another postponement might mean that the national exams will be affected. So I don't know what will be the best solution for this situation. What is Magoha supposed to do in this regard, if you were to advise him, Gladwell?
Miriam, actually, I understand the teachers because, for example, when I was doing my mass communication, I've also taught in a particular private school. And Miriam, let me say, I blame Magoha. This one, I'm not supporting him in any way. Reason being, Miriam, in the school calendar, we have a calendar for the whole year. And we know that the education system is supposed to take to this, not more comparing that it was affected by the COVID. Miriam, remember that parents are paying so much for the school fees. And you know the other thing with the schools, they're not reducing the fees because of the short terms. For instance, these midterms the students have been coming, they are not necessary. Again, Miriam, in that class, we got category of students. They're the bright students, they're the middle ones, the average ones, and they're the low class students. The low ones are the ones who need the teacher's attention for them to grab something. And Miriam, that student, that means needs the full attention of a teacher in a particular topic or maybe in a particular lesson to grasp and be ahead with like the others. So Miriam, ask yourself, what of that student who has been dragging behind for some months now needed to catch up? What happens to him or her? That means he or she will continue dragging behind because the teacher is not there. At home, he or she can't perform the way he's supposed to do because there's no guidance of the teacher. So here I blame Magoha. Some of these midterms were not necessary, Miriam. They were just causing chaos to the parent because as the student comes back home, he or she need to go back with school fees. He or she needs pocket money. He or she needs some basic needs. Miriam, some of these midterms, comparing that this was a short year for the education, it was not necessary and they could have. And then Miriam, we also have a syllabus to cover. For instance, they were supposed to close on August, at the end of August, so that they can go to that term. And Miriam, can you see it being possible? Again, this year we have to have two class candidates. That means the postponement of also the KCSE. And that is when we're hoping that this year ends so that next year we can go back to our normal school terms, whereby the school was actually easy and the flow was easy for the students. Also, Wazazi Wanahema, Miriam, let us be serious here. And the school can't comply with the student at the end of it, and also with the borders. Those students need to read, they need food, they need some of these things to be paid by that same school fees. You can't, and then that's how we can see that some of these students have actually been chased home because of school fees. So I think Magoha, yes, and again the mistake Magoha is making, he's just waking up in the morning and say because the election is there tomorrow, being on a Monday, the students can't open. Now he is saying the 18th is on this week on Thursday. Miriam, this is still an election week because we are expecting either Chebukati to announce it either today or maybe tomorrow because the day ends starts tomorrow. And there's no way you could just say that the students will go back to school on Thursday. It's not possible. That means it is next week. So the planning you could have made is that those midterms are not necessary. And then this is where they could be having the long break, whereby at least some of these the syllabus could actually be halfway covered. So he failed, and when he's just about to make another announcement, can he consult the teachers, because the teachers know where it pinch most, and also again the parent also know. Not that we are tired with the students, no, we are not, but again, we also want them well, and we also want, and as my brother has said, education in Kenya has been made a way that everybody can afford. But again, I have said, in a class, we got three categories of students: the good student, the excellent student, the average students, and the low students. Think about that low and average student who need actually to make it also in life. We are missing the future of that child.
Okay, thank you so much. Samuel Tawish, what is Professor George Magoha to do?
Thank you so much, Miriam. To be very honest, I think we should be fair to one Professor George Magoha. And even in as much as people have divergent views or opinions as regards to the position that government through the Ministry of Education did take as regards to the reopening of schools after the closure last week to allow, and that is last week but one, really, to allow for the electioneering period, or rather for people to go and cast their vote. It is something that we must all really underscore, that the government has had no option. And even if any of us really had that opportunity to be there as Magoha or as the government of Kenya, I think would have done exactly what Magoha has done. Because, when it comes to consultation, Miriam, it's not that maybe every parent, every teacher, every other stakeholder, really, they are representatives of these particular groups. And I don't think government just woke up and made that decision without at least some level of consultation. But that said and done, Miriam, you can imagine we are at a time when expectations are high. We are at a time when the country is anxious. Everybody, leave alone even our kids who are supposed to be in school today. And so no parent would want to really assume that nothing is happening and just send their kids to school. And I can tell you for sure, Miriam, Kenyans are a funny lot. Today, if Professor Magoha or government had asked the kids to go to school, say to report, say today, which is Monday, many parents, I'm sure, will not have even taken their kids to school, including yourself, Miriam, because for one, it's a wait and see scenario. You don't quite understand how these things are going to go about. Say, for example, if the announcement of the results is to prolong up to tomorrow. Say, for example, if you're going to have maybe IEBC announcing that we do not have a clear winner in this election, and therefore Kenyans should prepare for a presidential runoff. I mean, all those scenarios really being factored, I think the only option and the best that Magoha had, or government really had, was to defer the reopening of schools, at least to wait until we get the results of the presidential election and proceed. In any case, I mean, the issue of adjusting the school calendar is still something that is possible. Nothing is cast in stone. You remember when the coronavirus did strike the world about 2 years ago in 2020, Miriam, all of us here in this panel and Kenyans will acknowledge that there was a lot of disruption of normal activities everywhere and in every corner and in every business. But again, Kenyans were able to come out strong out of it. I mean, schools were even closed. Was it, I think, for almost 9 months or so? You can imagine. And here we are talking about just about 1 week, which we have lost. And not that we have lost unnecessarily, because we are having this exercise, and most of the school facilities are the ones really which have been used for the purposes of this election. So naturally, anyone would have expected that government is justified to make that move. And we need to wait now and see how this election is going to pan out. Like I've said, Miriam, and let us all be reminded, today, if Magoha had announced last week that schools reopen this week, today on Monday, I'm very sure not even a quarter of parents would have allowed their kids to go to school because of the fear of unknown, because of the uncertainty, because of the anxiety. We had to wait until here where we are, until the results of the presidential elections are announced, until government is able to really do an audit of the security situation, how the kids are going to be facilitated. Don't even forget the transport sector. There are some, of course, bus companies the PSV companies that suspended their operations because of this election. They are waiting until the presidential election is really announced. So it will have been logistically even difficult or impossible or challenging, really, for the kids to go to school, owing to all these numerous factors that I've enumerated. And of course, those that the government believes are some of the reasons that they chose to suspend the reopening of schools until, say, Thursday. And even that Thursday, Miriam, is really dependent on how things are going to pan out from the moment IEBC is going to announce the winner of this presidential election. So it is not something that we are even very sure that even this coming Thursday that the kids are going to go back to school. It is still a wait and see scenario. And I think we just need to continually hold that breath and wait upon this announcement and see how government is going to weigh options. The schools will still be reopened after all. I submit.
All right. Thank you so much. And would you agree this has been the most unpredictable elections that we've had in the recent times? In the last elections we've had, at a certain point in time, we already knew, before we even expected the last results, we already knew and we could tell who would be the next president. But on this one, we are yet to know because some constituencies are yet, results are yet to be tallied, and Kenyans don't really know. So it has become very difficult even for either side to celebrate, and you can tell by the banter that we've been, seeing online. So would you say this has been the most uncertain, elections that we've had and unpredictable elections that we've had in the recent times? Keep turning away. Gladwell.
Come up again, Miriam. Come up.
I'm just saying, like the last elections that we've had, by right now already, or just or a day before even, like we already knew who the president was going to be. But from what we've been seeing playing out, it's very difficult even for Kenyans right now to tell who will be the next president, even with just a couple of constituencies to go. And you can tell by the banter that we have been experiencing from the different sides. Would you say this has been the most unpredictable elections that we've had in the recent days here in the country?
Very true, Miriam. Very true. And congratulations actually to IEBC. It has been unpredictable up to now. Where I'm seated, somebody even called me to confirm what is happening. Up to now, nobody knows, Miriam. And I think this one has been proof that Chebukati and his team has been credible actually. And Miriam, most of the time, the previous general elections, you could have known who are, and it could have actually come, people before even they announced, Miriam, they could have been even blocked the highway in Nakuru. I remember 2017, some people blocked Nairobi highway, but there is a flow. There is a flow of the car. Miriam, it is unpredictable, and we want to encourage IEBC in the next general election, Miriam, to actually put more efforts to improve. Actually, they have done great things on this, and they have improved. Next year, they can do it better, Miriam, so that we can no longer, so that Miriam, election in this country can no longer be a tool of violence, Miriam. Miriam, many people have lost life, property, and everything. But Miriam, sincerely speaking, it is not predictable up to now, Miriam. You see even the preparation and what is happening around there. You might not know who has been elected like the previous days, Miriam. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, indeed. And I think once this is said and done and we go back to normal duties in Parliament, it's going to be a showdown, because as much as Azimio has the majority, it's only leading by 3 seats. So we can see how that was quite a tight race. Of course, we still have some 4 constituencies that are yet to vote. Because of some issues that was experienced during the electioneering periods and the mix-up with the ballot paper, so they will vote later on this month. But it's very close, and so maybe has this made it unpredictable, and the way IEBC also has handled this matter as a Tawish? And the unpredictability of this, has it also contributed to some calmness, because no side can really claim victory up to this point?
I think by and large, Miriam, what has really made this, really prompted this election to be unpredictable to the level it is today, it is because so far we haven't quite had a very clear a very clear winner in terms of the numbers that have been trickling in. When you see how the tabulations has been done by the media just before it was suspended, you could not quite tell who is leading because at some point you could clearly see Raila Amolo Odinga is leading. At some point, Deputy President William Ruto is leading, albeit with a very small margin. And in itself, Miriam, it has really made it very unpredictable, and you cannot be quite sure really who is going to have it by the end of the day. I remember the previous elections we have had, 2013 and 2017. By this time already, of course, the people of Kenya had already known by virtue of the numbers that we are trickling in, and by virtue of the, of course, the provisional results that were being released by IEBC. It was very clear, and anyone really from where they were could determine, rather could have a glimpse of what to expect in terms of who had won that particular presidential election. But this time around, I think all of us are still just webbed in that mood of waiting. You cannot quite come out authoritatively and say maybe Raila Odinga has won or William Ruto has won. Although also you've seen the bloggers of the either camps really flashing, all manner of allegations, all manner of news about which camp has really won this election, and each of the camps has really been claiming victory. So to this level, to this extent, Miriam, I can quite tell you that it's going to be a very big surprise to either side, because by the end of the day, IEBC is going to announce who has won this election. Yet up to this particular moment, not any of the supporters of either William Ruto or former Prime Minister Raila Odinga really knows with certainty and with authority that their candidate has won this election. So it's going to be somehow a very upsetting, surprising to the camp that is going to lose this election. And it's going to be very, very it's something that Kenyans are really waiting to see how this is going to happen. Another thing, Miriam, about the unpredictability is the thinking, because generally away from the presidential election, you've also seen in various other positions that people were contesting, the position of governorship, the position of senatorship, women rep, and also the member of parliament, and maybe even the MCS. Some of the unlikely candidates really were able to pull a surprise and really upset the status quo. Who could imagine at any given time that the little-known Kawira Mwangaza from Meru County, an independent candidate, a woman for that matter, really could be able to upstage one veteran politician, Kiraitu Murungi, who has, ever since he got into elective politics for the last about, I think, 7 elective seasons we have had, he's never lost any single election. And this time around, he has been humbled, and not just by any other person, by a woman, and one who did not even have a party. You cannot imagine. And the same can be, such examples can be given to so many other candidates, across the country. Some of the bigwigs really have been flawed in this election. Another surprise, Miriam, and unpredictability that has characterized this election is the fact that you have seen, unlike in the past, there's a very sharp departure and contrast from what we have been used to or treated to in the past. Where you have candidates who are not willing to concede defeat, where they're not willing to say it was a good contest altogether. I was watching one John Lonyangapuo, the outgoing governor for West Pokot, and I cannot imagine, just the other day, about 5 years ago, on the same podium, one Simon Kachapin was the first governor of West Pokot, really handed over to one, of course, to one John Lonyangapuo. And 5 years down the line again, Lonyangapuo hands back again the same mantle or instruments of power in West Pokot to one Simon Kachapin. So it has been more of like a give and take. And the kind of humility with which most candidates have accepted the outcome of this election, those who have won and those who have been defeated. Take, for example, Nairobi. Johnson Sakaja and one Polycarp Igathe, they came out and congratulated the winner. And also you see the winner saying, I'm inviting my opponent or the person I was competing with to come and have a tea so that we can build Nairobi together. We both have a vision, but I think the people of Nairobi probably chose Sakaja's vision over Igathe's vision. But that doesn't mean maybe Igathe wasn't a better candidate. So I think when in bringing together all these kinds of ideas, all these kinds of visions, all these kinds of energy, for the sake of the people, is one thing that I really appreciate with most of our politicians. They have set a very good precedent, and I think even the observers all over Africa and I think the rest of the world are really taking a very good example from Kenya. And I think we do not need really to destroy this. We need not to destroy the kind of a standard that we've already set for this country, because everyone is really watching this country with envy by virtue of how we are doing our things, by virtue of how we are embracing democracy, and how now we are embracing that political competition is just but competition, but it has nothing to do with enmity. By the end of the day, we need to hug the opponent, whether they have won or lost, and say this country is bigger than us. Let us build our country together. I think those are some of the unpredictability that I've been able really to witness in as far as this election. I submit.
All right, very well. And of course, just a reminder, those are live images from the Bomas of Kenya. I see the auditorium is already full, and earlier on they did clear the dais for the announcement that is expected to be made anytime now. And these reports that the declaration of the next president is imminent, so we are waiting sorry, to see that, and you can see there's a beehive of activities and people arriving there, and the whole place is almost filled up, so that place is also clear. So we're just waiting to see, and there's a choir there that has been entertaining Kenyans, and Kenyans have had so much to look at and to talk about in regards to that. So Kimilili, Member of Parliament elect Baraza to appear in court over murder claim. I think he's waiting for that. So I don't know, what will be your biggest takeaway from elections of 2022, Kitanui?
Thank you, Miriam. We've seen a lot of things actually in 2022 elections. And on my point of view, Miriam, as we said earlier, elections are process. We've seen a situation whereby many people with a lot of expectations, many people with big names being thrown away by voters, few people with little known, who have not been even in politics, Miriam. Independent candidates coming up, the youngest women representative from Bomet, and so many things, Miriam. Unlike the previous elections, Miriam, these elections of 2022 have not been marked by violence, Miriam. We've seen people doing campaigns all over the country, peaceful campaigns, making promises. And it is my prayer, Miriam, that these promises that these politicians, that these many promises that they skyrocketed, making a lot of promises, Miriam, may they fulfill to the electorate, Miriam. Miriam, I want to watch our brothers and sisters, whichever the side you are supporting, maybe your MCA was defeated, join the other team and build that ward together. Maybe your member of parliament was defeated, join that other team and build the constituency together. Maybe your governor, your women representative, even your preferred president, let us join hands, preach peace. For these 5 years which are coming, let us work out together. Let us still maintain peace. Election comes and goes, but our country remains. Let us maintain peace. Let us not hate each other. Let us spread love across the whole divide. Miriam, I submit.
All right. Thank you so much, Gladwell Kirago. Your takeaway from this year's election.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Indeed, I've learned a lot. And one thing I'll have to say is that I think Kenyans, we have been having a mentality that whereby as we go to the elections, we have to fight. Whereby as we go to election, we have to, cause us such a great environment that is not friendly. But with this election, and I'm hoping even with the next coming election, we still may have the mentality we've been having that whoever wins, wins. I mean, Kenyans have already accepted the outcomes despite them not knowing who has won the election, apart from the few individuals and who tends to be the bloggers, because as you say, these bloggers are actually working overtime. I hope they are getting paid for working overtime because they have been keeping the social media platform at 2 and actually with the hot temperature of giving everybody the prediction. But again, Miriam, something else I've learned is that we can do election in Kenya without we can go vote peacefully and go home. And that is something I think this time Kenya should be actually applauded for, because we've never done such a thing. Again, this is an election we have seen that people conceding that they have been defeated peacefully and actually saying, let us join hands and work together, something that has never happened like before, whereby everybody would say that it has been rigged, the rigging has been happening. But this one, people have actually accepted have been defeated, and there is a next time whereby I'll vie maybe for a different position. So that is something also commend this the people here are vying for the various positions, and I hope they keep up the same spirit. Again, Miriam, my urge is to these people who have also been elected. I mean, 5 years seems to be long, but then Miriam, you being in office, that means that is when you've started working. There's so much you need to go on doing from maybe the previous MP or maybe MCA left, or maybe you still retained the seat. There's so much that you need to still continue doing for these constituencies. There are complaints that we've been having, maybe of the pathetic roads, maybe the medications and etc. Then this with the new term, these are things you don't expect them to see, because we need a beautiful country. We need a better country where everybody is safe, and whereby everybody, despite I not having voted for you, I will feel that maybe what I wished to be done has actually been done. Miriam.
All right. Tawish, your takeaway from this year's election? Okay, we seems to... Okay, Tawish, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Indeed, there's so much that one can really pick from this election. It's one of its kind, one which, of course, has also seen a lot of international interest. If, for example, the kind of observers that you have witnessed this time around is anything to go by. Secondly, Miriam, it is also historic in a way that it's been very, very peaceful this far. The campaigns themselves, you have not seen so much of ugly scenes like the previous elections. Even in the run-up to, during the campaigns, in the run-up to the election and the election date itself, and even during times when we are waiting for the results. Previously, of course, at a time like this one, Miriam, already you could hear that some places in the country, people are fighting, many people are protesting and such kind of incidences. The same cannot be said of this election this time around. It is also historic in a way that we've seen a sizable number of really women who over time really in our political landscape have been viewed as underdogs, have been able to pull surprises and upstage the veteran politicians mostly, and have emerged really as of course victors in this particular election. I'm talking about the 7 women who have so far been declared as governor-elect, and various women, of course, women who have been declared as as senators, and also the members of a National Assembly. In itself, Miriam, it's something that's quite encouraging, it's motivating, that we're getting to a point that we do not quite need to be guided even by the dictates of the Constitution when it comes to some things. That there's an aspect about the common sense and the acceptance that we are at a time when we need to give each and everyone really an equal opportunity to fight for that space, to fight for the leadership of this country. And we are also, this election in itself is also historic in a way that we have a lady who is a potential deputy president in as far as, of course, Martha Karua is concerned, assuming today if IEBC really declares that Raila Amolo Odinga has won this election. So you can imagine we'll be having the first ever woman to have been elected as the first deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. So it is historic in a way, this election. It has its first in so many aspects. I want to hope that even the prayer of so many of the people of Kenya and the women of this country, in as far as Martha Karua, is going to be answered today, even as we wait for the declaration of the results from the IEBC. I submit.
All right, thank you so much, and we shall make way. And once the IEBC is ready to make its announcement, I think we will take us to the Bomas of Kenya, where that has been the National Tallying Center. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you, Kiptanui. Thank you, Gladwell. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. My name is Miriam Ogutu. The anxiety continues, I tell you. I'm even anxious where I'm seated, but in a good way. Whichever person wins these elections, I think the end of the day, all we want is a peaceful Kenya, so that Kenyans can go back to their lives. A lot of things right now have been held. People are afraid to travel. People are afraid to go open their businesses. Of course, there a bit of some activities have returned, but people are very cautious. So we need this to be done with so that we can move on as a country. We're just reeling up from the COVID-19. So you can imagine. So these elections kind of slowed things down. So we need to get back into the matters of national building. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you here a bit later. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.